that's new, and we're working on a couple other events that may come into play fairly soon, but it's just about a week or two too early to announce. So, but there's a few things in the pipeline we're pretty excited about.
So the tour's growing, developing every year. How many years have we had the tour now?
The tour, as in this frame, we've probably about 5 or 6 years now that we've been doing this. We used to be called the World Curling Tour Europe, and our partner tour over in Canada, the Canadian World Curling Tour. But we did a rebranding about 3 years ago, made it a little more European. Curling Champions Tour. We generally it's mainly European teams, although we do get a lot of good Canadian teams coming over to play. Basel, Jeff Stoughton will be coming in to play in Basel.
World champion, right?
Yeah, so things are looking pretty good. And of course, Canadian teams coming over to play on the Champions Tour is good for their points at home. And same thing for the European teams going over to play in Canada on the World Curling Tour. They also collect their points, their count here too.
Good setup to have that connection between the North American and the
the
European tours.
Yeah, it's problem obviously in curling is that there isn't that much money in it, so it just costs a lot of money to go to the major events, and so you tend to play more in your region as opposed to going even in Canada. I think that's happening. I just heard an interview with Gushu saying he's playing more in the eastern part of Canada because of the travel time and travel costs and that. So it is difficult. If we're a professional sport and that's the only thing you're doing and you're making good money at it, then you could really go worldwide and play. But until we're to that point, this is working out quite well, and the partnership's quite well too. Even in Canada, the distance has become...
I was just going to say, I remember we were in Alberta for some of the ladies' events, and even some of the Canadian ladies' teams had travelled 12 hours with flights, 12 hours to get there, 4 or 5 hours from Ontario, and they'd driven down to the airport, and it's like 12 hours door to door for a domestic competition. So
we're Europe 3-4 hours max. Somewhere. We look for that also, that we're within a major airport somewhere quite near, so that the travel time from the airport to the event is not as much. These are some of the things we look for. Obviously Baden here, we're 20 or 30 minutes away from the Zurich airport. Champery's pretty close to the Geneva airport. Oslo, obviously. Great.
And that's a beauty. Switzerland showing their colours here. Claudio Petz with a very accurate takeout, getting just a millimetre from that front yellow, pushing the yellow nicely through the hole. And Scotland feeling the pressure now. There's 3 or 4 stones in the danger zone there.
Might be tempted to move some of those front rocks. Just clear it up. Tom's got the hammer, so he'll make sure he's got something left with his last shot.
There's 4 yellows in a row there, but I'm fairly sure that 3 could go here. Just so that things don't get too out of hand too early in this game. A little bit the mistake that Andy Cat made earlier on in the semi-final. We warned at the start of the third end that Switzerland were clearly playing better, and Andy Cat went...
He only gets one of them, 2 of them. Not quite what he wanted.
Andy went full out aggressive in the third end and ended up losing a 4, and the game was kind of already finished. And I think Tom has certainly had an excellent weekend so far, but Switzerland probably just outplaying him slightly at the moment, so I think it's a good call to clear some of those yellows and make sure that things don't get out of hand too early. But Sven now with a very good looking situation. He just wants to replace one of those yellows that was removed.
Here's always the danger of, again, wanting too much, like we saw in the last end, although it ended up working out for them. But you should be happy with the force, and you get the force here. So if you can steal one in the end, it's okay, but make sure you get something out of it.
That's right, don't play a stone that then facilitates the other team to end up scoring 2 points. So Sven Michel with his first stone of the third end. Switzerland leading 2-0. Scotland with the hammer. Sven looking to play, I believe, top 8 foot somewhere. Plug up the control zone and make it as hard as possible for Tom Brewster to score more than 1 point.
Scots just don't know anything.
Well, when you mentioned Mai Tai, I wasn't sure exactly what you meant.
Yeah, the Canadians and the Scots sure speak a different language, don't they?
What's that, Armin? Sorry?
Canadians and the Scots do speak a different language.
So we've got a question in from Scotland. It's Bob Cowan, Skip Cottage. Good afternoon to you, Bob. Thanks
Hello,
very
Bob.
much. Yeah. Good old Bob sitting watching the curling on a Sunday afternoon somewhere in the Greenacres area, I suggest. And Bob's asking us if we could tell him a little bit more about the Baden Curling Hall.
We can certainly do that. Baden Curling Club East. There used to be a sports. There is a sports facility right next door where there was 6 sheets, and about 12, 15 years ago, it was privately owned, and the curling club members there had a bit of a problem with the owner, so they stopped curling there. And a year later, they built right next door to it. They built this nice 4-sheet curling club, and there's about just over 200 members playing here. It's strictly for curling. It's one club. And so it's been 11 seasons now in this curling club, and the Baden Masters has been running almost just about that long. I think Joe Velchley started it when he was president here. Joe Velchley also part of the Champions Tour organization. He was actually the president when they built this club, so he was quite involved in that. We don't really have pay-as-you-play members. We have a company curling in Switzerland where companies will come in and rent two sheet or a sheet or two or whatever of ice and do recreational just to try it. But generally, it's all club membership.
Curling in Scotland is kind of based around club membership, and you pay a certain amount per game.
Right.
And in Switzerland, you see that less, don't you? It's really just a club membership for your whole season.
That's right, and you sign up for the leagues or whatever if they have leagues. They usually have club training night where they come out and they fire rocks up and down the sheet. But they do have leagues they play here. They have inter-club leagues that they play all through Zurich area, and Basel has inter-club leagues and things. There's about probably all over Switzerland these recreational leagues that takes about 400 or 500 teams playing. But unlike Scotland, I've been in Lockerbie where, much to my horror, I've seen people coming out there with skates right after, just before curling.
Oh yeah.
I haven't. We don't really have that here. These are really dedicated curling clubs. So, and obviously it takes the base membership to keep that going. Well, I hope that answered some of your questions, Bob. It's good to hear from you. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you somewhere.
Bob also asking a trivia question about whether anyone's ever made up a cocktail specifically for curling. We were speaking about Mai Tais and caipirinhas before.
I think Brian's more of an expert in that area.
And Bob is also asking about the cocktail club, and Yeah, I can tell you, Bob, the Cocktail Club was a curling club formed in Aberdeen in 1988. With myself and 2 other people, we formed that club there. And nowadays, we play both domestically as the Cocktail Club in Aberdeen, and also internationally. We do play some tournaments as Cocktail International, and Armin knows all about that. He's had the, I think pleasure is the wrong word, but he's had the honour of of joining us for a competition in Latvia last summer, and
it was a great time. I just had to play with you. That was the problem.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that's the downside of the membership. It's you have to play with me. But
all the other players were nice to play with. No, I really enjoyed that weekend. Had a good time, and Riga impressed me quite a bit. That was a nice place.
And curling's on the up and up, of course, in Riga, and the fantastic news recently that the 2013 Women's Worlds will be in Riga, and of course we're thrilled for Latvia, a country with just 150 curlers, that they can go ahead and host a World Championships, which I think is pretty much unique in terms of World Championships in the last years. Thanks, of course, also to the women's efforts in the last year's World Championships, where the women's made the World Championships. The Latvian women's made the World Championships for the first time.
Good shot here for Tom. He wants to hit this on the nose and stick around, take his point. Gives up one. Tried to get all 3. It's a nice attempt.
Yeah, so Switzerland springing into an early lead here.
Yeah.
3-0, and but still the game absolutely open. Five more ends to play, and I'm sure Tom will have 1 or 2 tricks up his sleeve for the second phase in this game.
Getting back to Latvia, the Latvian boys were here this weekend and played. You know them quite well, I think. I think they played quite well. They were unfortunate. Results weren't that good for them, but I think for a start,
tough group.
It was great. Yeah,
it was a tough group. They're all tough groups, of course. But they said they had a chance of an extra end against David Murdoch, which they let slip through their fingers, and or was it Brewster? I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure.
Chance against Ulsrud for a 3 or 4 in the first end.
In the first end,
played them.
Mm-hmm. That's Team Ritvars Gulbis from the Riga Ronis Curling Club in Riga. But as we say, delighted to hear that the first Worlds will go to Riga in 2013, and that's it's a good message for the World Curling Federation to send to these small countries.
Absolutely.
If you put the time in and you make the trainings and you do the stuff, then we're going to look after you and give you an event. So,
women's team is playing in Oslo, the Latvian women's team.
2 good ladies teams. There's Iveta Stasas Arsune is the team that played at the World Championships last year, and Evita Regza. Those are the 2 teams in the past years. But this year, surprisingly, Evita Regza has decided to disband her team, and now there's a 3rd team involved, and they, I believe, will go to that event. And it's going to be interesting because Latvian women and men, of course, in the A group, so that's a rookie team now going straight from Latvia into the A group of the European Championships in Moscow. So they're going to have their hands full, but nevertheless wish them all the success, and hope that they can hold their own in Moscow.
Anything you want to know about Eastern European curling, Brian is the expert.
I'll take that as a compliment. We've got another email in, Armin. It's some technical problems with the sound, we believe. Thanks for your message, Sandy. We're just looking into that technical problem right now. And there's some shaking of Scottish heads out there, so things not going quite Team Brewster's way at the moment.
Has no problem coming back from 3 down. There's lots of curl. These rocks are really good rocks. Scottish rocks, of course. Huh? Caves of Scotland.
Still only 2 quarries in the world where curling granite is available. Is that right, Armin?
Oh,
Scotland and Wales.
Too, obviously, yeah. Welsh Trevor for the body on that one, and common green Elsa on the blue home, taking off the Isle of Ailsa Craig.
Ailsa Craig.
Ailsa Craig.
Nice accent.
And then they go to Mauchline.
I'm sorry, are you speaking to me?
Mauchline. Donald McRae made me practice that for a long time.
Before he gave you the stones, yeah, quite right.
I worked this hard. This looked like the handle's a little bit nice, so it's got a big swing on it. I'll move those around a bit.
That's a very nice shot, though.
That worked out really well.
Excellent stone there from the Scottish number 2. The reason I like it, first of all, the red is kind of a little bit frozen on that yellow. Secondly, there's a nice guard up the front, so it's giving opportunities. Another thing I like about it is it's moved one of those yellows back behind the tee line.
That's right.
And that's probably even more important because it's building up a little bit of a pocket, and exactly those pockets could be the ticket for Tom to pick up a 2 in this end. So Switzerland now trying a down weight, seems to be under control, just picking the red off.
Nice shot.
That's a nice shot, and it's another yellow. That's going to go out. Safely done, and I think good for Switzerland is that yellow goes out of the rings. Switzerland are winning by 3-0. They don't need a bunch of stones hanging around behind the tee line there. Just
a great wall of China behind the tee line.
So Scotland repeating more or less what they tried before, just come down onto that yellow and move it behind the tee line there. And that's a very nice stone.
That's a great shot. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Swiss will have to be careful trying to remove this rock. Don't want it to jam anywhere. Obviously, with those 2 yellows behind it, it makes that shot that much more difficult.
Claudio Petz, number 3 for Switzerland, being asked to remove that sole Scottish counter. Thanks for the emails coming in. We've had another email from Scotland and now an email from Spain. Nice to hear from you in San Sebastian. Some of the cocktail members saying hi and enjoying the coverage, so pleased to hear that you're enjoying it, and stay tuned because I think this game is going to warm up rather soon.
Well, certainly in position now, the Scottish team, to be able to build up an end.
Scotland needs some precise freezes now to capitalise on these stones behind the tee line. And this looks to be just a little bit
Making a move now.
wide. Needs to swing. They're really pushing on it. Just moved into shot position.
Yep.
And it's more or less behind that guard, but not completely, so...
You can still get on the inside of it, I think, if I look at it from here. Needed to swing a bit more.
Thanks to Sandy in Scotland. Sandy picked up that we had some mild technical problems with the sound, and Sandy's also pointed out the fact that you can see Ailsa Craig, which is the mound of rock that we were speaking about, where all the curling stones are coming from. You can see Ailsa Craig from where he's
Trying
sitting.
to say there's finally some good weather in Scotland, right?
That does suggest that it's clear, yes. There's not a driving gale and driving rain, it seems. So, but thanks for your email, Sandy, and hope you're enjoying the coverage from Baden. If you've just joined us, we're at the Baden Masters, the 2011 Baden Masters event from Baden in Switzerland, just west of Zurich. My name is Brian Gray, and alongside me this afternoon is the Curling Champion Tour Director, Armin Harder, bringing you pictures live from the Baden Regio Curling Hall. And I can tell you that Switzerland have sprung into a 3-0 lead against Scotland.
They're making nice shots too.
They're just one after the other, very precise. All four players in that Swiss team really performing right now. As we see Greg Drummond, the third player for Scotland, looking to move one of the yellow counters out of the rings and trying to freeze on the one at the back. A little bit overswept maybe, and it's just going to spring out.
Just hanging around.
Well, the Scottish like those doubles, so you just never know if that stone's going to be in play or not at the end of the end.
Certainly good at it.
But he'd be disappointed that he didn't freeze. He really wanted to freeze on the stone on the back of the 4 foot. As it is with the spin that was on that stone, it's gone right out to the left hand side, as we see.
Swiss are now looking for a team or two to take over the mantle of left behind from Andy Schwaller and Ralf Stöckli. Of course, Christoph Schwaller's still around too, but some of these young teams trying to move up the ladder.
We saw the French-speaking team, De Cruz, was here this weekend, and they had some very nice curling shots.
Just got out of juniors last year, former world and silver medalist last year, world the year before. Very high potential team for Switzerland.
Sochi maybe just going to be a little bit too early, but no question.
Depends how they develop. Obviously, development curling takes a bit, so it's not a 1 or 2 season thing. It's a longer project.
But that team's showing all the signs of good team dynamics, strong team will, and some very nice shot making.
And some curling smarts too. De Cruz is a good skip.
So there's some good prospects for the future there, and there's no question the team that we're looking at right now, these guys can curl away rather well as well.
Certainly proving it.
And they've had really a great... and it's a big one.
Yeah.
That's bad luck for Sven. These things normally even themselves out, and Tom Brewster had one of those in the first end. Some sort of pick. We'll just see it go there, sweeping right on it.
Looks like it might be something that was under the rock to begin with, because they were brushing it pretty good.
So at least 2 pickups so far, although to be fair, neither pickup really going to change the game, so that's a good thing from our perspective. Don't like to see games decided by a little bit of dirt, but it certainly gives now Tom a realistic chance to get a freeze in there on this 4 foot stone at the back of the rings, at the side of the rings, and set up a chance for 2 that way.
The way that reacted could have been a hair or 2.
So looking to come down now, and he's just going to try and freeze on the stone on the 4 foot on the left side from our camera angle.
I do see a few hairbrushes out there, so.
And here it comes, it's looking rather nice. Needs to stop. Needs to stop.
Great shot.
And that's a beauty, yeah. Tom just getting into shot position. That was also important. He needs to be in shot position, otherwise doesn't really do much. And he's just an inch better than the yellow on the other side of the 4 foot. So
Michel's only option here is to come down, freeze right on top of it. Last rock for the Swiss.
You must have 20/20 vision if you can see some hairs out there.
Well, I see a few hair brooms in the way that rock reacted. It certainly looked like it picked a hair. That's the way a rock will react when it picks a hair. So it's a good possibility. No, my vision isn't that good. I can't see the scoreboard anymore. It's time to quit.
That explains. Okay, that explains a lot.
Where the numbers were always wrong on the scoreboard. That just rolled a bit too far. I didn't want it to come off like that. This allows
he's not
Tom to come down, tap that back, and score us 2. Just a hair too long. Look at there we go. Hair again. Just a bit too long. Yep.
So there should be just enough room. Tom would need to come with back 8 length maybe. Move that yellow completely out of the 4 foot.
He doesn't want to move the red one too far because there's a yellow one on the other side that may just...
In fact, looking at the ice he's taking, I'm not even sure he's going for 2.
Oh yeah. Taking about 2 feet there, so that's... with a hack weight, you might be able to get that out cleanly. But he has to hit it.
As you say, it needs to be perfect for both reds to stay biting the 4 foot.
And he also has to move that yellow one. It's got to move quite a bit.
Maybe one of those where they make sure 1, and if they see that it's...
Make sure you keep it clean. It's looking pretty close.
Oh, and that's a beautiful shot.
Great shot.
Beautiful shot, yeah. That's really a world-class shot from Tom. He's managed to keep both reds in the 4 foot there. He was all very, very tight. No question about getting shot, but to get that second shot, you needed both stones to stay biting the 4 foot, and he's done it perfectly. So
good eye in the sweeping too.
Look at that. Almost backline length there.
That's exactly where you had to hit it.
It's a beauty. Good for us because it keeps the game close. 3-2.
False. Oh, are you partisan? Oh, that's the game. Oh, okay.
Good for the viewers, Armin.
Oh, good for the viewers. Okay.
Good for the viewers. The game stays close. It's 3-2 for Switzerland after the 4 ends. Switzerland with the hammer, 1 point up. So no question in a good situation right now. Sven, Michel, and his team from Adelboden.
And Tom's all of a sudden got a little spring in his step again. Thanks to Al Moore just passed me the statistics. Al Moore being the national trainer for the Swiss now, new national trainer. Also kind of passed me the statistics of the teams. We'll give them to you to read.
If you've forgotten your glasses.
Okay, I'll read them. So we have Adelboden Skip at 84%. Third at 84%. The second at 91. This is the Swiss team, obviously.
Sandro Trulio.
Yeah, and lead playing 78%.
Simon Gempler.
Yeah, that needs to come up a little bit.
A little bit low for lead, yeah.
And Brewster's team, Tom Brewster also at 84%. Third at 78%, Greg Drummond. Scott Anders at 72%, and Colin Campbell at 84%. So it's fairly, I'd say, fairly even. A little more advantage to the Swiss side. totals.
Well, interesting there. Armin, Switzerland 20% up on the number 2s.
Yeah, that's a big
And
number.
that's a big number for one position. So Sandro Trolio right now outplaying Scott Andrews just a little bit. Scott will need to bring his percentages up just a little bit to close that gap.
Al Moore doing a lot of work with these Swiss teams.
So of course you have 2 hats these days, Armin.
I got a lot of hats.
Yeah. You're also
I'm
involved.
still a Maple Leaf fan.
Still involved in the. You're involved, of course, in the Curling Champions Tour, but you're also involved in Swiss Curling Federation these days.
I am. Yes.
For your sins.
For my sins. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. You mentioned Al Moore there. Give us a little bit of information how that's going.
Well, there's been quite a few changes in the Swiss Association. There's in the executive side and also in the elite side, coaching side. Andy Schwaller is the new head coach. Well, new head coach. That was already pretty well. He took over interim starting in November, but now he's been designated officially as head coach, and Al Moore is assisting him and technical trainer. So we've got Urs Oenninger's doing physical training, so we've got quite a competent coaching staff now. We have quite a few young teams that certainly need that kind of coaching, working with the team coaches and trying to develop them.
So Al Moore is living over here 10 months of the year, or?
You'll be here till about April, then I go home. He's been here since somewhere in the middle of July. Started working these teams here in Baden. This ice is in here since the 1st of June, so it's one of the few facilities that has about 10 months of ice. So a lot of the elite teams will come here and practice all summer. And Al's been working quite a bit with them and their team coaches.
So things looking up for Swiss curling?
Yeah, we have a long way to go. Obviously, there's a lot of things that need to be done to get to a standard. Obviously, there's a coaching development, which has certainly been a problem here. Hasn't been done quite so well. These teams don't have access to coaches that readily, especially in their regions. That needs to be looked at. So that's certainly a part of it. There's a lot of things in Swiss curling that still need to be corrected and worked on.
But at least some major changes have taken place now, and we can look forward to a healthier development environment where these things can grow. It might take 5 or 10 years.
I certainly hope so, yeah. We're getting some good people coming in now. We're getting some good marketing people coming in, and media work. The whole picture needs to improve in order for the sport to develop, and obviously all parts of it are very important. We need to create a product that we can sell. Sponsoring is important. You know, we see these teams, different countries that are spending more and more money in developing their teams, and in order to keep up to it, you need to find sponsoring. And obviously, sponsoring you can only get if you have a product that you can sell that's attractive. And curling is certainly attractive, but we need to do more than just the game itself. And just winning medals doesn't win you sponsors either. They want to have a platform that they can present their product or whatever. I think the tour is, in the last 5-6 years, has certainly given an opportunity for most of these teams, or a lot of these teams, to to develop and consistently play against high-level teams. This was certainly missing in Europe, I think, up until that point. And you'll see that you see the level of play that's at this. I've watched it over 5 years develop, and I think by far and wide the European teams have made some great jumps.
And it's a recognition of the tour that somebody, I was asking Tom, how many of the events are you playing, and he said all of them. Tom is just going to play all the events. They see that as optimal preparation platform for what they're trying to do. And these are the kind of games and the kind of competitions that they want. So it's obviously satisfying a need and giving these teams the kind of platform that they need to get themselves ready for their seasons, at domestic seasons.
For some of the countries, the tours become also a qualifier for their championships and for their or even Olympic status. I mean, the Germans, the tour is part of their qualifications, so they have to do well on the tour. The Swiss are putting more weighting the tour a lot more for their teams. So it's important to perform well here too. So I think the Norwegians are also, they use that system too, that they
absolutely
qualify in part over the championship.
And the demand is high. There's a lot of teams who want to play these events who unfortunately in one sense cannot play, but that's also a good sign. That means that the events are filling up. And
it's certainly becoming tougher and tougher to get into every year. There's no doubt. You have to perform well to be recognized to even get in. Baden here will get upwards of there's 20 teams that can play here, and they'll get upwards of 30 maybe top teams trying to get in. I know Champry got 30 teams playing there now, but we were well above that of teams wanting to play. Once you break in and you get into quarterfinals, which is really tough, or semifinals, or even come to the finals, your chances of staying in the tour are a little easier. So, but you have to perform well.
So some more emails coming in. Thank you very much for those. And very good afternoon to Olli Rissanen, who is the acting president of the European Curling Federation. Olli, we're very pleased that you've honoured us with your presence this afternoon.
Yes.
And it's nice to hear from you, and thanks for your comments. Hope you're enjoying the curling, and hope to see you somewhere soon.
I'm sure we will. Latest in Moscow, I think. Moscow, the European Championships coming up in December.
As we watch Sven Michel trying to blank this fifth end, but he hasn't done it, and he won't be pleased with that at all. That can sometimes happen. You up the weight and trying to hit and roll out, and then that can just happen. He's nosed it, and he's taken one which he for sure didn't want to do. The reason for that now is that he hands the hammer back to Tom Brewster in the sixth end, and that's bad because from Sven's point of view is that Tom scoring, of course, in the 6th end is also advantageous for Tom. So, bit of an unforced error from Sven. There was no real reason for that. He could have been 3 up. He could have maybe scored 2 in the 6th himself and put himself in a very good situation to win this competition. As it is, Tom Brewster now with the hammer, 4-2 down in the 6th end. More emails coming in, and we'd like to thank Walter Grossenbacher. Walter, thank you very much for your email. Walter had a few questions about game plans and also the whole issue with coaching in Switzerland. And it's quite a long question to answer right here, Walter, but the best thing I think to do is to drop the Swiss Curling Association an email. In fact, Armin will be happy to take that email directly, and his email address is armin.harder@curling.ch, and that's ARMIN.harder@curling.ch, and Armin will be happy to put you in touch with the right person or send you some links, Walter.
There's some great questions there. Just be happy to answer those in a different format.
But thanks for your interest, Walter. Hope you're enjoying the curling coverage that we have here today from Baden. And we really appreciate the questions. It's just a little bit too much information to discuss right now because we're getting to the closing stages of this game. But we appreciate your interest, and I'm sure Armin will sort you out once you drop him a line. If you've just joined us, we're live from Baden in Switzerland. This is the 2011 Baden Masters, the first event on the Curling Champions Tour. My name is Brian Gray, and alongside me is Armin Harder, who is the director of the Curling Champions Tour. And we're bringing you live this afternoon from Rink 2 in the Baden Curling Hall, a Swiss-Scottish final game between Sven Michel of Switzerland and Tom Brewster of Scotland. Both teams playing tremendously well to get into this final. Both teams enjoying a number of good games in the past 2 days. And the score, as you can see on the screen, Switzerland leading Scotland by 4-2. Scotland with the hammer, and we're in the 6th end of an 8-end game. So still all to play for. But at the moment, we'd have to say Switzerland with the slight upper hand. Switzerland have proved probably to be a little bit more consistent in this game and actually throughout the weekend. And they're proving that, especially with the man playing now. Sandro Trollier has pretty much topped the percentages on the ice this morning, 91% for the first 4 ends. And he's playing exceptionally well. And Scotland are just going to have to lift it up 1 gear if they want to get into this game.
Another good shot here. Scotland was a little long with their last shot. They wanted to be buried behind those rocks in the 4-foot, but they had to sweep it to get it past. Ended up taking it to the back of the 12-foot. Scotland does have the hammer, only down 2. It just takes 2 to tie it up. So.
And that would be in the 6th, so take 2, give 1, and then try and do it all again. Yeah, so
theoretically
it's all theoretically clear, but the practice, of course, is a little bit different.
I see a good big shot on the club there. Just picks the top one. They were going for the one behind it. Didn't quite get it. over curled a bit. Ice will change during a game, obviously. The pebble starts wearing down, and especially in the middle where there's a lot of play, rocks will start moving a little more, a little differently. Might have to put another rotation on the handle just to keep it running nicely.
And no room out there for floppy releases. It needs to be a good solid delivery, a good solid release of the hand. You don't want to be starting those rocks off on that ice out there.
If you look at club curling, I think probably everywhere, that's probably the biggest problem that most curlers have, or a lot of curlers have, is the handle, the rotation. Especially now, since we got so much curl in this game, the more curl you got, you might make sure you have a good solid rotation on that rock.
Solid rotation and a positive release. A positive release means, if anything, just being a little bit angled outside the brush but never inside, because if you've got a 6-foot swing or a 5-foot swing, if you, as we say in English, if you start the stone off at all, if you start it towards the center of the sheet, if you're playing a come around, then you can sweep it as long as you like, but it's never ever going to come back. So you have to get those rocks out there first and then allow the curl of the ice to bring them back. As we see another,
a little bit heavy.
A little bit heavy on that one. It was a very nice line, but again, 4 yellows in play, so Switzerland keeping the pressure on these Scottish guys.
Certainly not shy.
And really feel now Scotland's got to lift their game. They've got to get in here, get the 1 or 2 points, start to make an impact on this game. We're in the 6th end now.
Tom does have a chance to get something going here if he gets a really good shot. Does have rocks in play, and that's what he likes to see in his situation. The Swiss team could be playing a little more defensive.
And as you'd expect, Scotland, who are wanting to play offensively, they're just keeping the weight down here. They don't want to play big fast takeout weights. They want to keep the weight down so their red stone stays around.
A little unlucky there. Might have been better to get off that early. They would have had the top 2 yellows.
So the situation is as follows. We're in the 6th end. Scotland desperately needing a 2. And their strategy right now is going to be to continue to play downweight shots, tap backs, freezes, draws. Use the yellow stones that are in play to try and maximise their chance of scoring more than 1 point. So they're going to try and move this yellow back, maybe get behind the line, behind the guard.
Very nice.
That's a very nice shot.
Yeah.
And there's still a yellow at the back there, so there's still a chance for freeze on that later, if it comes to that.
Well, the Swiss will try the run back, obviously, but there is stuff lying around to jam on, and you don't get the run back. You want to make sure you clear off the guard and roll away yourself also.
Exactly, so it's free for the next throw. And there's a number of things that can go wrong here, so Switzerland have to be careful. But Claudio Petz is well aware of all those things, and will be looking to. And it's a beautiful double takeout.
And the guard rolls away too, so it's perfect.
It's just perfect, yeah.
Can't do that any better.
So like I mentioned before, the yellow on the back is maybe going to provide a freeze opportunity. And otherwise, Scotland don't really have many options left. So there we go. They're going to try and come down and freeze on that yellow at the back of the 8 foot. It's really all they have.
There's an angle on the one leg outside of the rings too that would make the next takeout a little more difficult.
So Scotland trying to just freeze that yellow at the back. It's not a bad result, but it's unlikely to force a miss at this stage. Would need to be a good bit closer than that. Switzerland have to watch the other red is just also in the way a little bit. The red at the back of the 12 foot.
Jam on the red too, yeah.
Or it could be yellow red, yeah. There's
jams both ways.
Different ways that red is getting in the way. So a useful shot by Greg Drummond. Sven Michel, his first stone of the 6th end, looking to clear out the Scottish stone at the back of the 8 foot, trying to keep Scotland to just 1 point, and the line looks to be very good.
Ooh.
And it's bounced out. It took its time to get out, but it got there in the end. And there we see exactly why all those stones around the back of the 12, even if they're not in the rings, they're all potentially dangerous for the team without the hammer. And that's why if you don't have the hammer, you need to be careful not to leave too much stones lying around. Like that yellow one there is definitely a potential problem. But fortunately for the Swiss,
a little thinner, that red one would have stayed.
That can change games. These are the differences between scoring 1 and scoring 2 sometimes, or even more.
Tom just bailing out here.
This is his first stone of the 6th end.
Going for the blank.
Trying to clean up now. We'll want to stay around somewhere, just in case there's another jam or something. It's rolled a long way across the house, so
Swiss could freeze this.
Force 1.
Yep. But it's probably pretty safe just to make it disappear.
4-2 going down the 7th is still pretty good.
Yep.
So Switzerland opting to take this out. Of course, they will try and stay. And then they'll hope that the Scottish team will hit and stay with their stone and basically score 1 point by accident. But first things first, Sven has to hit this on the nose.
Sweeper's keeping it clean.
Nicely done. And now Tom needs to make sure that he just rolls off this.
Yeah, Swiss will be happy if he stays.
Exactly what happened to the Swiss in the last end. They had to hit for a blank, and they ended up nosing it. Now it's Scotland's turn to blank an end. Tom Brewster, last stone in the 6th end of the 2011 Baden Masters final. Looking to blank this end, trailing by 4 points to 2. And he's done exactly the same, so he'll be furious with himself. Or maybe not. But I don't think that's what he wanted. So Tom Brewster giving Kim and friends at home a little wave. But won't be happy with that shot. He's hit and stayed. It's 4-3 for Switzerland. So Switzerland leading by 1 with the hammer as we kick off the 7th end. So I was having a word with Tom before this final, and he gave me an idea of his season. And as I said, he's off to all the other Curling Champion Tour events, and he's basically preparing for the European playoffs, which are in October. And that's a 4-team playoff in Scotland to go to Moscow. 4-team, yeah. Yep. And those teams are obviously Tom Brewster, David Murdoch, Dave Edwards, and Sandy Reid.
I think so.
So those 4 men's teams playing off in the next 6-7 weeks for a berth, for a place in the European Championships in Moscow, which is going to be an interesting event for sure. First time that the European Championships have been to Russia, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, it's a very nice facility too. Big ice facility. I think they've had World Figure Skating Championships in there. There was a hockey Worlds were in there a couple of years ago. Really nice facility.
So we're all interested to see how the Russians are going to host that event, but I'm sure they'll do a great job, and I know that a lot of the teams are looking forward to making their way up to Moscow in December.
I'm sure it'll be nice and warm. Moscow in December.
Ironically, the Russian men's teams, of course, not in the A group this year. They're in the B group.
That's right.
So the Russian ladies, of course, in the A group. No surprises there. They're pretty much at the top half of the table each year. So
just going to update to the stats here. After 6 ends of play, starting with the Swiss lead at 81%, the second at 85%, the third continuing to play strong at 90%. And Michel at 81%. So that team throwing fairly consistent all the way through at 84% in total. The Scots have picked up their game a bit. 85% for Tom, 85% for Greg Drummond.
that sounds a bit better, yep.
And they still have a bit of a problem at second with 71% for Scott. And lead position 85% for Colin. So a total of 82% team average. But obviously, again, quite a difference at seconds. 24% overall. And hence the difference here in the game, I think.
No question, no question. That's the Swiss have just been setting themselves up a little bit better each end.
2 more ends to go, and we never know. The game can change all of a sudden. One little mistake. That's going to pick. Let's get a take of that rock there.
So we have an email in from Kim Brewster in Bonnie, Aberdeen, I hope, Kim. Hope you're doing fine. And as for your question, well, is it too early in the day for a drink, Armin?
For us?
Yeah.
No.
I'm not sure if it's a rhetorical question or not, but...
Kim talking about herself,
maybe, yeah. Watching her husband Tom, of course, on the ice live in Baden. But it's
she
nice.
Thinks he's not curling very well. I might.
Different ways to interpret that email, but it's very nice to hear from you, Kim, and hope that you're doing fine in Bonnie, Aberdeen. And let's see how these last 2 ends go for your boys.
Someone would like to move this one behind the tee line. Set something up a bit there. Needs at least 2 in this end. Obviously Scottish team throwing here, not the Swiss team, as indicated in the graphic.
Of course, Tom accidentally took one in the 6th end, so Tom doesn't have the hammer here, as he would have liked. But that's a nice looking shot. Needs to get that fully out the rings.
Right, steal 1 would be good. 2 steals in a row.
Or give 1, take 2, and we get a nice exciting extra end, which...
We have to wait longer for the drink then.
Sandro Trollier. Looking to come through the same gap. Sandro playing a stormer of a game today. Not entirely happy with that one, but he's certainly the first half he's had an excellent opening half to the game. Just dropped a little bit back on the second. %91% for the first 4 ends. Dropped back to 85, Sandro, so still very respectable numbers. But thanks to everyone who's taken the time to write in this afternoon. We appreciate the emails coming in. It's nice to get emails from around Europe and around the world, and we're pleased that you're enjoying this live coverage from the 2001 Baden Masters. My name is Brian Gray, and alongside me is Armin Harder. As we come to the end of this weekend's live coverage from Baden in Switzerland.
This very warm weekend in Baden, Switzerland.
Just to remind you about the upcoming men's events on the tour on the 22nd of September, the 22nd of this month. The tour moves up for the Radisson SAS Oslo Cup in Norway. And then at the end of this month, one week later, it's back in Switzerland for the Swiss Cup in Basel. And we'll be together with Leola T1 TV, we'll be bringing you live coverage of those events.
We'll be showing Oslo too. Producing up there should be Curling Canal will be producing it for us, but we can receive it here on Lola 1 TV. So we'll get as much coverage as possible up there, thanks to the Swedish production team. Swiss Cup will be showing again with our production here. After that we go to Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
Sorry. I need to drink a scotch before I speak that. And then we go to... that's
Champery.
We go to
Champery
first.
Yeah.
Yes. Champery first, and then Edinburgh.
Close.
And we go to Champery on the 21st to the 23rd of October. Edinburgh in the 25th to 27th of November. And we head to Perth. 5th to the 8th of January. And we hope to be maybe announcing another event or two within the next week or so.
So
between that, we'll have some women's events too we'll be showing, so we don't just show men's.
So 6 events on the men's tour this year, and the possibility that it might be getting
1 or 2 more
expanded.
Yeah. Still in negotiation though, but
so the women's tour kicking off on the 22nd of September from Oslo.
Oslo, yeah. It's men and women playing parallel there. The women's events: Oslo, Basel, Stockholm, Wetzikon, Bern, and Glasgow. The Glenhill and Glasgow finishes off for the season in January 20th, 22nd.
Yep, so 6 events for the women as well.
Yeah.
Thanks to Bob for your, let's call them recipes. Thanks, Bob. We always appreciate extra information like that.
I'm interested in the ingredients for the second one.
As we see a big brush effort from Scotland coming down.
Just over curling. Managed to hang on for shot.
So crucial stages now.
Swiss still have 2 rocks to come. Tom's got 1.
So we're reaching the sharp end of this 2011 final. Switzerland certainly have a chance perhaps to come through that hole and set themselves up for what would be a game-winning 3. Team just looking at the angles through that port there, if it's possible to come through there. Looks like they're going to go for it.
Got to give Bob a little plug too. His website, Skip Cottage. Always lots of good information on that.
Absolutely an excellent website. Now, Bob, of course, responsible for many interesting articles throughout the years. Not least on the 1st of April, there's always some amusing ones about how they're going to change all the feet and inches to meters, and of the measurements of the curling field. I remember that one. I think that was this year, Bob, and you certainly had me going for at least the first 4 or 5 sentences. As we see Sven Michel with a perfect
nice shot.
Hit and roll, and he's sensing that he's going to score more than 1 point here, and if he does, he's going to be hard to catch.
Tom's got to come up with a big one.
Tom could, of course, easily double the back two, but it's not really helping him because
he's got places to hide, though. So
he needs to hide, but now he knows it's the game's on the line. If he can find the spot, there's even a yellow-red tap there. There's different places he can hide, but he knows that there's then a possibility of 3 or 4 for the Swiss team. Whatever he does, he could double those two at the back, of course, but that would leave Sven Michel with a straight hit for 2 points, which would also be putting Switzerland in a very strong position. So Tom really needs to find a way of stealing a point or limiting Switzerland to 1 here, and it's not going to be easy with so many yellow counters in the rings. Tom Brewster with his last stone of the 7th end. Under pressure. And they're really leaning on it from the very start. It's certainly not long. They're really leaning on it, and unfortunately it's all over the front guard. Disappointing result for Tom. And now Switzerland with an open draw for 4. In fact, they're not even going to play it. So congratulations to Team Sven Michel from Switzerland, Adelboden in Switzerland, on a very impressive win in this 2011 Baden Masters.
Now we can have that drink, Brian.
I'm ready for it now, Armin. But it's been an excellent weekend's curling, and congratulations to you, Armin, for this start to the 2011 tour. Things seem to be on a good way, and curling is very much on the up, and a very attractive event, I have to say. We watched a few games this weekend, and the level's been between high and very high. Wish you all the best for the rest of the tour this season.
Thanks for having me in, and I'd also like to thank everybody that was out there watching. We will have lots more to come, and I hope everybody sticks with us.
So as we see the winning team making their way up the sheet, we'd like to thank you for tuning in this afternoon. As we see the packed house in Baden just responding to that win by the local Swiss team. Obviously a popular win. We wish you a very nice afternoon, and from both of us here in Baden, goodbye.